remake a certain list 3 times. I'm not saying that remaking a list that much is a bad thing, but my opinion just changed since then. In my other 2 overrated games lists, I mostly messed up on the number 1 entry with Luminous Arc and Skyward Sword, bringing up stupid irrelevant stuff at times, how like Luminous Arc is going against my religion, and how Skyward Sword with its teaching kids to commit suicide excuse. I know it was only 1 entry each time, but people recommended me to make a new one, so why not? And like with my Pokemon I like that no one else does list, this could be considered an overrated list, but I know people who have good reasons for liking these games. I want you to understand that I don't hate every game on this list, though I do hate most of them. You might think that some of these games are underrated, so hear me out. Some of these games used to be underrated, but then they got more appreciation. I'm sorry that some games on this list are games I already ranted on, some even twice, but this was the next highest countdown topic that was voted. Here we go. I already explained my hatred towards the Game & Watch games, and Fire is still what I found to be the most overrated one of them. Excuse me, the one that I didn't like as much as other people did. It's basically the same formula as the other Game & Watch games, just standing in a few spots with nothing else to it. And the objective? To keep stuff from falling on the ground, in this case, keeping the people from falling on the ground, has been milked constantly in games like Tropical Fish, Manhole, and Chef. The game also leaves a confused look on my face as to why people are infinitely crammed inside the ambulance, and how no matter how long you last, the fire never burns down the building and the firefighters never come. I can understand that this was back in Game & Watch days where video games didn't have a lot of technology, but even Rain Shower made more sense because then the sun came out sometimes, where there were pauses between rainstorms. Even the modern version in Gallery 4 feels like just a minigame. Sure, it's an improvement because it has more game mechanics, but other than that, it's just boring. On my least favorite games list, a user by the name of a homeschooling Groudon left a comment saying that they were made because no one knew what Game & Watch was at the time. Maybe so, but no game will appeal to everyone. Like I said, I don't like the game Fire, and I don't like the Game & Watch series in general. This Game & Watch is an awesome addition to Melee, though. In the first version of my list, which was on my Meta 537 channel and is gone now, I revealed that I didn't like the original Donkey Kong because of how outdated it is. But I can appreciate what it did. It was a game that introduced Mario, the character who ended up saving the video gaming industry 4 years later with Super Mario Bros. I'll give it that. Donkey Kong Jr., on the other hand, no. Not only do I enjoy it even less than its predecessor, but at least that game brought us Mario. What did Donkey Kong Jr. do? It gave Mario an official name. I'll give it one thing, I'd much rather have him be named Mario than Jumpman. I mean, Super Jumpman Galaxy doesn't sound very promising, doesn't it? Even as it may, they probably still could have given it an official name in Super Mario Bros., even if Donkey Kong Jr. never existed. Now as for why I hate Donkey Kong Jr. more than its predecessor, well, it takes place right after the first Donkey Kong, where the objective was to defeat Donkey Kong and save Pauline. Donkey Kong Jr. took place right after, and here, Mario is the bad guy because after saving Pauline, he locked up Donkey Kong. No, you don't do that. You just don't. You can't just make someone feel terrible for playing the first game which you wanted them to enjoy. That's not very pleasant. Heck, I like the Game & Watch Gallery 4 version better, because it was available from the start and the Game & Watch version of Donkey Kong was unlockable. It didn't make you feel as terrible for playing it. Plus, it stands out among the other Game & Watch games since it's more like an adventure than the other Game & Watch games. DK Jr. doesn't stand out at all among the NES games. Thus, it's not very impressive compared to games like Zelda, NES, and Mega Man 2. I've explained my hatred towards Shadow of the Colossus a couple times already. I really don't know what else to say about it. In case you don't know by now, the reason I didn't like it is because I found it way too repetitive. Yes, it had some emotional moments, but I didn't enjoy it as a whole. It has a good art style, but the gameplay is redundant. Yes, gameplay isn't the only thing that matters. But sometimes gameplay can be so tedious that it pretty much ruins the experience for me, even if Shadow of the Colossus does have a good concept. The overworlds are completely empty, and because of that, I found them to be just bland. They consist entirely of you riding your horse through the Forbidden Lands and trying to comprehend the stiff and unresponsive horseback controls, following a beacon of light to track down the Colossus. And the beacon doesn't even lead you through the path you should go in. Instead, it just pinpoints what direction it's in, so you'll run into dead ends like there's no tomorrow. It gets very infuriating. And the swimming controls are way too slow. They may be as slow as you can swim in real life, but that's no excuse to make it this repetitive. As for the Colossi themselves, while it has some great bosses, they require the same way to defeating them for the most part: climbing. I usually enjoy this concept of a boss fight and think it makes for an awesome atmosphere, but that's usually because they don't use that boss concept throughout the entire game. Despite that, it probably would have still been fun if they didn't completely drag on for about half an hour. It's only number 8 because people have very good reasons for loving it, and part of the reason I didn't enjoy it that much is because I'm more into Nintendo games. Yes, I admit it, I mostly play Nintendo games. Shut up, we all have different tastes in games. But remember what the title of this video says. I probably would have enjoyed Shadow of the Colossus if the game's formula didn't consist of find out where the Colossus is, ride your clunky horse through the tedious overworld, defeat the Colossus, find out where the Colossus is, ride your clunky horse through the tedious overworld, defeat the Colossus, find out where the Colossus is, ride your clunky horse through the tedious overworld, defeat the Colossus, rinse and repeat throughout the whole game. I can see that the empty overworld was meant to set the mood, but like I said 2 entries ago, no game will appeal to everyone. Just because I don't like a game that's meant to be emotional doesn't mean I'm a heartless jerk. Oh, and one more thing. You have no idea how many times I fell off something that took me 5 minutes to climb. You see, I liked Okami a lot better, for multiple reasons. But I'll just list 2 of them. Because the overworlds had more stuff to do, and because Okami didn't repeat itself 16 times. I doubt I have much else to say about Pokemon Colosseum. I told you guys about how the battles take up about 80% of it. It may be an RPG, but even RPGs know to put some effort on the overworlds. The overworlds pretty much have no puzzles in them whatsoever like the normal Pokemon games do. It has some awesome songs to it, but also has some songs that get dull after a while. Such as the Pirate Town music, the stupid Rogem Tower music, and the Team Snag'em battle music which plays in almost every battle in Colosseum, making it the most monotonous song in the franchise. I could go on and on about its flaws, but if I did, then this entry would be just like watching the entry for my 2013 games list with different music. Case in point, I don't like Colosseum. Some say it's underrated, but it's one of those games that used to get hated on but then got more praise later on. Sonic Adventure 2. Hold your rage and just let me say, I still love Adventure 2. It just seems like everyone says it's the best Sonic game. It is indeed a very fun game and the first one on this list I actually enjoyed, but at the same time, took out a lot of things that made the original Sonic Adventure one of my favorite Sonic games. In that game, you play as 6 different characters, giving it more of a variety. There are 6 characters to play as here too, but half of them are merely just clones, even more so than the ones in Melee, because Melee's clones have different speeds, attack strengths, jump heights, and minor differences in their attacks. These characters, however, have pretty much no differences other than the one character exclusive move. Sonic and Shadow are the most fun characters to use in Sonic Adventure because they give you the feeling of running really fast. It's too bad you barely play as them at all. In most of Sonic Adventure 2, you play as either the fighter character or the robot suit characters. The fighter characters are pretty fun with their search missions, which are actually not half bad, but the robot characters have incredibly clunky controls, are way too slow, and stink at platforming. And I much preferred Sonic Adventure's hub world over the map system. The cutscenes aren't bad, but they did a terrible job at balancing out the music and voice audio, and because this is the most overplayed Sonic game ever, I am sick and tired of the cutscenes because the dialogue is pretty much engraved into my skull. Especially the dialogue that's heard in both stories because you have to hear them twice per Let's Play. And a lot of people I know do this Let's Play more than once. It's that overplayed. So I decided to do something. I will not watch a Let's Play of Adventure 2 unless it's uploaded by a popular user or a user that I really enjoy. And even then, I'm going to skip over the cutscenes when watching the video. I'll admit, this game is probably more overplayed than overrated. You can play it as much as you want, but I'm just pointing out, I'm getting tired of the cutscenes. I know that everyone has a favorite game of a specific series, but why does nearly everyone pick Mario Party 2? It's a good game, don't get me wrong. What makes it the best in the series? I just don't get it. I mean, I like Mario Party 1 better because it had more memorable levels and minigames to it. I don't really have much else to say about Mario Party 2. Mega Man 3 didn't really get my interest. A lot of people say that Mega Man 3 is the second best classic Mega Man game, second only to Mega Man 2. At least Mega Man 2 had innovations such as password saving and making the games longer. Mega Man 3's biggest innovation was the usage of Rush, except I found Rush to be more gimmicky than fun. I like Mega Man 1, 2, 4, and 5 better. But wait, why do I enjoy 4 and 5 more than 3? Because they're more memorable, they have a certain charm to them, and what was another thing? Oh yeah, they didn't have the filler of having to fight the past Robot Masters in some of the most frustrating Mega Man stages ever. Don't worry, this will be the last entry on the list that I've made an entry solely about ranting on before. Castlevania on the NES is easily the hardest game I've ever played. It has some of the cheapest enemy placement ever. If you haven't played it, you have no idea. I did admittedly get it on the Wii Virtual Console, even though I said you would have to start the whole game all over again if you turned it off, but on the Virtual Console, you have a way of just starting back up where you left off. I'm happy about that, but it's still the hardest game I've ever played. If I were given the chance to rewrite the dictionary, I would probably put this game's picture next to the word difficulty overkill. Before you say that most NES games are hard, I've played a lot of NES games, but not nearly this difficult. Even Kid Icarus is easier because even though I gave up at a much earlier point in the game, I heard that it gets easier later on. Some can say that Ninja Gaiden is far less forgiving because of how, unlike in Castlevania, you have to start all over whenever you get game over. But here's the thing. I haven't played Ninja Gaiden, and if people proclaim this, I don't think I even want to get it unless they remake it with a save feature. Some of you also are thinking of Ghosts and Goblins, except I haven't played that game either. But since Castlevania is the one I've played, it's the one on here. I loved Crash Banjo-Tooie as a kid. I grew up with 3 of their games and I loved 2 of them so much. But I felt like I wasn't a true Crash Banjo-Tooie fan as a kid since I didn't grow up with the original game. So a couple months ago, I decided to get it so I could feel more like a true Crash Bandicoot fan. When I ultimately got it, it didn't make me feel like a true Crash Bandicoot fan. I hate this game because of one fatal flaw. Wait, why do I hate it if it's only one flaw? Simple. That flaw is so outrageous that it completely ruins the experience for me. That flaw is the broken as heck, poorly designed save feature. The only way to save is to collect enough Tana tokens on a level, which are found in hard-to-reach areas. Then once you get all 3, you'll be warped to a bonus section where you can save in. Except you have to beat the bonus section in order to get a chance to save. If you die in them, you miss your chance to save until you beat the level. Getting the gems will save your gem progress, but not your level progress. Trust me, I tried. You can only use each level's save feature once, so instead of being able to go back and save whatever level you want, if you saved on every level so far, you have to save on the level you're currently trying to beat, which is much harder than it sounds. It's been an absurd amount of times where I had to replay the same levels because of how this flaw mixes with cheap enemy placement. Like I said about a month ago, it is by far the worst example of losing progress whenever you get game over. Overall, I hate this game. The number 1 game I don't like as much as everyone else does is not a bad game. I don't hate it in any way, but it's definitely my number 1 pick for this list. Number 1 is Banjo-Tooie. Banjo-Tooie is a relatively decent game, but I don't find it as good as everyone else finds it. It's not bad. It fixes some flaws from the original Banjo-Kazooie, like saving your music notes and making the level designs link together, but lacks so much charm that Banjo-Kazooie had. Banjo-Kazooie wasn't one of my all-time favorite games, but it's definitely one of my favorite N64 games. It had such a beautiful atmosphere to it, and it manages to put a smile on my face, And keep in mind that this is someone who didn't grow up with it. In Banjo-Tooie, on the other hand, the atmosphere is just colorless and boring. The original Banjo-Kazooie soundtrack was also some of the best that the N64 had to offer. With Banjo-Tooie's soundtrack, while songs like Mayhem Temple and Jinjo Village were awesome, songs like Hailfire Peaks and Grunty Industries were completely dull and generic. How the heck could they mess up the soundtrack? This is the same sound font they used for the original Banjo-Kazooie and Donkey Kong 64, which had some of the best music on the N64. How could they make multiple sleep-inducing songs from the same sound font? Banjo and Kazooie's ability to split up would have made Banjo-Tooie more fun, but when they go solo, their moves are mostly just filler. Oh look! Banjo's sleeping in his backpack! How creative! Wow! Kazooie's hatching an egg! That would make the level design some of the best in video game history! Okay, seriously, this is pathetic. The gameplay overall is not that bad, but it is my choice for the #1 game I don't like as much as everyone else does. I am mad at 527 and despite the fact that I like Banjo-Tooie, it did not deserve the #9 spot on my 2012 games list.